var equal to 1, 2, 3, and if I want to know what is the type of this variable, then I can say get type of $var. It's going to return in this case in data type. So this is how you do it. Now suppose if I want to assign a value to a variable, assign a type to a variable, I can do that thing by specifying set type followed by the name of the variable and the type. For example, I can say I want it to be treated like a string, and now onwards that will be considered as a string, even though the type that is assigned to it is a numerical value. You are changing the type, and that is the set type. Now this is how you assign the value to the variable. We have the variable and you specify the value. Again, you can assign a expression. This is an expression, a very simple expression. An expression may have division, subtraction, or any other things directly to a variable. So here, the voting age is the value that is 16, which is the value of the age plus 2. Also, we can assign a boolean value like true, false, and other things. So let's look at the different conditions for creating variable. First important thing, variables are case sensitive. Next one, they must be declared with the $sign both in the declaration and during the usage. The type is implicitly taken up by the PHP. The value that is assigned is taken up, and it is loosely typed. What is the meaning of saying loosely typed is you assign a value, whatever value that is assigned is considered to be its data type. That means you can change the type of the or a data type of the variable on fly, which is a very different thing when you compare it with the other programming language. In the other programming language, once you declare a variable and once you specify the type of a variable, during the lifespan of that variable, its data type cannot be changed. If you say int x, then it will be int throughout until and unless it goes out of scope. You cannot assign a string or you cannot assign a boolean value for x, which is declared as an int. Whereas this is not the case in PHP. You start with a int variable, immediately you assign a boolean, immediately you assign a string, everything is going to work fine because the type is automatically verified by the PHP on usage, and it automatically handles it. Let me come back to the page over here. So let's look at the things in action. So I have a page over here, and let me try to create a variable. And I'm going to create a variable var equal to 1, 2, 3. The type of it is, if you want to know what's the type of it, you can say get type followed by the variable. Now this is going to produce. So you will notice that it's going to return, even if you runs it, it's going to give you the type as integer. So that's the integer. What I'm showing over here is the data type of the value that is being assigned. In the same way, you can create something like and if you want, you can then echo something. In fact, the NetBeans is intelligent enough to tell you that it is a Boolean type. So when you start typing it, it's going to show you that it's a Boolean. Okay. One problem with the PHP, go over here, and let me just take V1 to reduce the bulk. So I have this 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I try to say the type of it, this is the particles in order to avoid the time delay. So I'm going to say this is V1, $V1, and if you run this one, you will notice that it's a string. And if you look at this one, the var is a integer type. Let me declare one more variable. I'm going to say v2. v2 is sum of var plus, remember this is, if again, let me go back here and let me tell you that the v1 here is a string. The third one is a string. So I'm going to just add the v1 to this and I'm going to echo the value of it. First I'm going to put vr here and I'm going to put the value of v2. This is the value of v2 and then I'm going to concatenate get type of $v2. So the last line will be the one that is of interest to us. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to just refresh it. And you notice the thing over here. So what I have here is, if you look at the value here, 1, 2, 3 was the value. For this, I think I'm going to reduce these values to a slightly lower one, 12, and let me make it as, say, 3. Let's try here, and I've reduced the value so that the calculation is very simple. We have 3 here. For that, I'm going to add 12, and you notice that even though this was a string, and it has given it as a string, when I add it, it's going to convert this string into numerical value, and then it starts calculating. And the type of v2 after doing this calculation is integer. So it implicitly converts the string into integer, and then it's going to perform that value. Now, in fact, if I say that 12 is a number, now this is going to be a perfect string. And now, if I go over here and then press F5, you notice that there is no change. So what is the difference between the PHP and the other programming language? So when I said add var, which is 3, with the v1, which is this old string, the PHP parser took it and it said out of that entire string, 12 is a number. I know 12 is a number. Remaining part is not a number. So I'll just take that 12, which is a number, and then do the calculation. So I took that 12 out of that string, and it is giving you the value. Now, what is going to happen if you try to do this way around? Okay, the number, and after that, I'm going to start with the number, and then I'm going to start with the string, and I'm going to put this number there. So in this case, what's going to happen? Now you notice that in this case, there is no error that is getting generated. It started taking it, and when it started, it got that character, and it assumed that okay, there won't be anything else. So when you start it, if it is a number, it will take your starting numbers and ignore the remaining text. But you start with the text. After that, if you have a number, it's not going to perform the calculation. And it's not going to give you the error message saying that I don't know and other things. It will automatically do it. Now, this is something which is different from the other programming language. Again, if you notice that the type that I got for v2, let me make it as this one, 12, so 2 or something, whatever it is. So you know very well that v2 is an integer. Now, if I want to convert v2 to something else, so if I say set var, and I'm going to say v2, and then let me take this one as a string. So I'm going to say convert. This statement says that set v2 as string. You know very well, I'm not going to run this one. I'm not going to run this one. Before I run, you know very well, with this line, it said that, when I said echo v2, it calculated, this was the previous value, it calculated it showed the calculated value of v2, and it was showing me that the type of it is a integer. Now what I've done over here is I'm trying to convert it into string. Then I'm going to say, show me what is the type again. So I'm asking it again, show me the value and again tell me what is the type of it. So I'm going to just save it, press F5, and you notice this time I changed the number here, 3 and 2. So it's going to be 5. Up to here it was string, and then I said set type as string. It's going to change the type into string. Again, if I assign a Boolean value to it, so v2 equal to true, and then if I ask it again, okay, show me what's the type of it now, and if I run it again, you will notice one strange thing. The Boolean true value is 1, and it's going to say that it is true. It's going to show you the value. It's not going to show you Boolean is true or something, unlike your C# or any other program wherein you say Boolean means Boolean. It is not integer. It's not the case here. It just means to say that it's a numerical value it is trying to take it. So here, one important thing you will notice that on fly, I'm trying to change the data type. You notice a strange thing. I am not saying that something else is string. So whereas if you just recall what you might have done in your other programming language, you might have had let's say int x equal to 1, 2, 3, and you were not typecasting it like this. You were not converting x itself into something. What you were doing there was you said, take me this, take the float of x and then assign. Look at what is being done. X is still integer, but you are saying convert it as something. And if you are using it in an expression, the x itself was not changing. The value of x was slightly modified and then was used. For example, you might have a expression in C or something wherein you might have said z is equal to y, which is a float, plus float of x. You might have done this kind of thing. Now you notice over here, x value is temporarily changed as a float, but x itself is not getting changed. X is still the integer, only its value during the expression, its value is converted, but x itself is not getting converted. Whereas if you look at this place over here, I'm exactly changing the type altogether. The value of or the type of v2 is completely changed as something different. It was integer here. Up to this point, it was an integer. Then I said it's a string. Then immediately I'm saying it's a Boolean. So it is not saying typecasting it. It's converting it altogether into a different type. This kind of trick is possible only in the PHP. It is not possible in the other. Again, if I want to say that, okay, v2 is, let me create one more variable. v3 is int of $v2. Remember, v2, you know very well, the v2 value was, even though I assigned it to the true, which is a Boolean, and if you've seen the output of it, I'm not going to run this one as of now. If you've seen the output of it, the value when I assigned true, the value of v2 was 1. So I'm now saying that get the integer equivalent of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to print the value of v3, and I'm going to ask it, okay, tell me what is the type of v3 altogether. So I'll go here and I'm going to, oops, come on. Okay. Then I'm going to say, show me the value of v3, and you notice that now this v3, whatever I'm taking here, is the integer. It has been typecasted as integer and it's being used. So let me go back to the slide now. So this is the idea behind it. Now we have seen the implicit conversion. Now how many data types are there in the PHP? Altogether there are 8 primitive data types are there, 4 of which are scalar. Scalar being single values which can be stored over there. and they are obviously Boolean, integer, floating point number. Remember, floating point number is actually a double, even though we say floating point number, it's not a float, actually it's a double, okay, in other programming language. The next one is a string. These are the scalar type. Then we have the structured type. The structured include the arrays, which is a structured collection of items. We have objects, which is from the object-oriented side. And the last one is we have two special data types. One is the resource, which points to any other resource. Like the resource could be a connection to the database, open connection to the database, a file handler. If you are reading a file, so in your other programming language, when you said f open something and you said fp equal to f open and a file name in your C programming, fp was the pointer to the file. In other words, it was a handle to the file. They are different kinds. It's not integer, it is not a float, or it is not something else. Okay. Then we have this null, which is a special type of value which just indicates that nothing. Null means nothing. Okay. As usual, you know very well, as a programmers, you don't specify anything. So int is a whole number, float is a real number. Remember, it's a real number, it's not the float that you see in the other programming language. It's actually a double. Then we have a string, boolean, array, object, resource, and null. Let's look at the first one, that is real or integer values. Now, how do you use this one? Now, integers are very simple. They are whole number. They could be decimal, octal, or hexadecimal, like all the other programming language. If you are starting an octal number, it must start with a 0, like the one that is shown over here. If it is a hexadecimal, it should be 0x followed by the number. If you specify 0x and an hexadecimal number, it's going to be hexadecimal. You can have a negative integer and positive integer. However, in PHP, we don't have unsigned integers. In the other programming language, we have something called as unsigned integer. If you know very well that a integer will not, your variable will not take a negative value, and if you want to store a large value, you just say unsigned int. That's not there. So there is only signed int which are there, and the maximum size of the integer depends on the operating system as well as the hardware that you are using. If it is a 32-bit, it is the same 2 to the power 32, roughly 2 billion values you are going to get. Let's go to the floating point number. Now, floating point numbers are numbers with the decimal, and there are many ways in which you can specify it. One is the ordinary one, dot 1, 2, 3, 4, or using the scientific notation, capital A or small case. It's going to work fine. So, again, the decimal, the floating point number, the maximum value, again depends on the platform in which you are running it. You can have roughly 14 decimal precision with the floating point number. Now let's come back to the Boolean type. Now Boolean type, there are two types, are there, true and false. They are case sensitive, that means you can type it all in caps, all small case, or intermediate one. It's case insensitive, so anything is true, anything is false, without the double quotes. If you directly write true and false, it just means to say that it is true and it is false. However, there is a lot of confusion with the Boolean when you are using a Boolean. If you start a string, empty string, it is considered to be false. Or if a string has 0, so for example, if you just create a string and if you assign 0 inside it, it is considered to be Boolean false. If you convert it, it will be a Boolean false. Or if you are using it in an if or while expression, the string has a 0 value, it is assumed to be false, as well as if it is null, also it is false. It's going to be a bit problematic if you are trying to go for that. It's like you will have to So the example of usage, you just assign a value without the double quotes, and it could be anything, all caps, all small case, or so these are a few things that you must understand. If you just say if, and if you just type true, it is going to be a true value. automatically designs to be true. There is no double quotes in between, you must understand that. And if the number is false, it's exactly equal to 0. If it is true, it is 1. You've already seen that thing. String is false if it is an empty string or it is 0. Object and arrays is false if they are not pointing to anything. Okay, then let's look at strings. Strings can be three types of strings are there. Strings put in a single quote, strings put in double quotes, and tiered of syntax. We'll look at both of them. There is a difference between putting a string in a single quote and putting it in the double quotes. Okay, so let's look at how do you put that string. Now, both of them look alike. If you are just using a ordinary string, both of them will not make any difference. Both will create a string, and if you start with the double quotes, you must end with the double quotes, or if you start with a single quote, you must end with a single quote. You can start with a double quote and end with a single quote. It's not allowed. Okay. Now, what's the problem with the single quote and double quote is with the escape sequences. Now, when you use escape sequences, both of them behave slightly different. Now, let's look at that in action. I hope all of you are familiar with the escape sequences that you have studied in your C programming languages. So, let's look at, let's create a string here. I'm going to just create a string str1, and I'm going to start with the single quotation saying that this is a string. There's no problem with it. If I echo it, it's not going to create any problem. Okay, it's not going to create a problem to me if I try to do that. It's going to drop away. However, there are a few differences. One is, okay, so inside single quote, I'm putting a double. Okay. So within the single quote, I'll put the double quotes. Let me go over here and let me refresh, and you notice you get see that double quote as it is. And it's vice versa. You can change it other way around. And that is, if you start with a double quotes, you can put a single quote in between. But you might have already seen, you can't have a double quotes inside double quotes. Again, single quote inside single quote. Okay, this is allowed. Within the double quotes, you can have a single quote. And it's going to the word, ignore the word, there will be a single quote. Okay. Now, what if you want to have a double quote? If you want to have a double quote inside it, you will have to escape this double quote. And the way in which you do it is by using a backslash. So what I've done is I've escaped the double quotes, and it's going to go from. Okay. So you get the double quotes. Again, the same thing is if you want a single quote inside single quote, it's going to be slightly different. Okay. So let's look at this one. I'm going to go here and I'm going to escape it. Double quotes inside, single quote. Let's see what is it's going to do. I'm going to press F5 and you notice the same thing. It didn't pick up. It's still showing it as it is. So that's the difference. It will not try to interpret what you are trying to do. Now let me go over here and let me take this as this. And I'm going to just get rid of this one. This is a string. And you know very well what is the meaning of saying /n. This is in second line. What's the meaning of saying /n? And let me go over here and let me refresh it. That will not have any effect on the browser. Remember, for browser, /n is not the way to get a line break. For the browser, it is the via that will produce a break. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, show me the source code of this. Now, if you look at the source code here, this is what it has done. The spark came up to here, and then there was a /n. It produced a break. But this line break will not make any difference on the browser. Browser does not recognize /n as a line break. You have to go for via. So this is how it's going to go. Now, what will happen if I change this into a single quote? What effect will I see? So I'm going to just save it and go over here, F5, and you notice the one that it didn't touch that /n. And if you look at the code here, and there is nothing it is trying to do. And that's a main difference between a single quote and a double quote. When you have something inside a single quote, whatever you do, as it is shown to the user. It will not try to interpret the values. So let me go over here and let me finish it off with one more example. Let me go here over here and I'm going to say var equal to 10. Okay. And I'm going to just put this string here, $var. So this is the value I'm trying to show over here. And I'm going to remember this is in the double quotes now. And I'm going to go over here and then I'm going to refresh it. And you notice that when it is a single quote, the var is not touched. Let me convert it into double quotes here and put the string inside double quotes. You save it and go back. And when I refresh it, you notice that the var is replaced by its actual value. So that's the difference between single quote and double quote. Both of them are string, but they are treated differently when you have an escape character or when you have the variable inside. So if you want the values to be shown as it is to the user, use a single quote. If you want the values to be interpreted, the escape sequence to be interpreted, the variables to be, the value of the variables to be shown, use the double quotes. And by the way, how many escape sequences that we have? These are same from your C programming language. N is for line break, carriage return, horizontal tab. If you want to escape the backslash itself, double backslash, $sign to get the $sign. Why that is a special thing? Why $sign is a special thing here is you know very well. If you start something with the $sign, it just means to say that it's a variable. So, for example, if you look at here, it was 10. It interpreted that var as 10. Now, what if I don't want it to interpret this var as I don't want it to take it as a variable? I'm going to say /var. That means to say that I'm overriding the $sign, and in this case, even though it is in the double quotes, you will notice that the var is not considered because there is a escape. So I've escaped that $sign. So if you want the $sign to be shown in the output, then you can think of using it. The last one is for the hexadecimal and the octal notation that if you want to use. Okay, some of the example, I think I gave you the example very quickly. If you are not very familiar with this, like echo, there is one more function called as print. Print, and that it's going to find it's not a different function. Instead of echo, you can use the print function. So if you say this value is going to come here, if you use want is quote, and if it is a single quote, then it will not interpret the value. If it is a double quote, it will take the value of it. Okay, then about the backslashes, I think you're familiar. So there is a block, there is a melody in the two variables, and I'm using the slashes to escape it. So if you notice here, I want to get like this: P class is block, and I want it to be the inside double quotes. So I start with the escape, I start with the escape here and then use the values. Okay. So something like that. Okay. Again, if you want to get the double slash here, for example, a slash in petrol price, then if you want a slash here, put the double slash. Otherwise, it will get the. If you put one slash, it means to say that it is escape. By the way, what is the difference between this and the other one? This is the escape sequence. This one is the remark statement. It's inline remark, the line remark that you are writing. So there's a huge difference between them, and I think I'm not going to waste my time on that. The next one is the concatenation. You have already seen. If you want to combine two things together, the concatenation operator is not plus, it's the dot. If you want to combine them together, use the dot operator in order to do that. The last one, which is a bit problematic and sometimes is very helpful, is the here dot. Here dot string is a very special kind of string. Suppose if you have a very lengthy line of text to be shown, and you don't want to put the double quotes, and you don't want to get confused whether there is a double quote and so on and so forth. The way in which you create it is using a here dot. Here dot starts with a triple less than symbol followed by a label. Label could be anything. Any label you can use it. After this, you type all the text and finally end with the same label that you started with. So if it is XYZ, you have to start end it with the XYZ. The label will say it's the starting point, it's the ending point, and you are using it. So let's look at it in action. So let me create a variable here, and I think I have here. So I'll go over here and I'm going to put 3 and I'm going to say end of 5. Anything I can do it. Say this is first line. This is second line. This is third line. And now, very important thing, if I say E of F, it's not going to work. If you notice over here, it is starting from an orange color, and that orange color is not filling up. That means say that till the end it is taking the same thing. It's not showing in color, like a blue color. The meaning is it has not taken it to the end of string. So then how do I end this one? If you want to end this one, you have to get it to the first line. First line of very difficult task. It must be the first character in the line. So then you got everything. What's the problem with this? Let's start with it. Very difficult task to try. Have the entire string here. What happened? It's still saying that end up here. Should I put the system also? Yeah, this must start thing altogether. It's a semicolon. It was giving me a wrong message, and these are not really required. You start from anywhere, but the label, only restriction is this label, when it is ending, it must be on a separate line and it must start at the right at the beginning. That's the only restriction that you, if the rest was everything. The label that you start, it could be anything, it would be any word that you can type here. The same word has to end, but it has to end right at the beginning of that line. If it is not, it's not going to. But now, if I save it and then try to show this one, you will notice that this is not going to produce a line break there, because you know very well for the browser, enter is not a line break. For the browser, BR is the line break. So that is the here dot. Sometimes it is useful. In most of the time, it is too confusing. because a slight mistake of putting a space right at the beginning will lead to huge confusion. Okay. These are the example. I think I won't waste time on that. Let's go to the next one. And the next one is the array. There is again a difference between the arrays that you were used to in the other programming language and the arrays which are used in the PHP. In the PHP, array is an aggregate of value. So its aggregation means it's a collection of values. In other words, in a very simple way, it's a collection of key value pair. That's all. Unlike your other programming language, wherein you say that array is a ordered collection of same data type. That's not valid here. We are not saying array is a collection of same data type. Like your other programming language, you say it's an array of integer, array of float, array of string, array of one data type. That is what you are used to it. Whereas when it comes to the PHP, it's just a ordered collection. That's all, of any type. It could be first part is a string, next part is an int, third part is a bool or anything you can put it. So it's not of same type. That's the difference between the PHP and the other programming language. So what do I mean by that? Let me go over here and let me create an array, and we'll get rid of this whole thing. And I'm going to create an array ARR equal to the way in which you create this array is you just type array. I think you are already familiar. Now you can start with one. So this is a string, this is a int, this is a floating point number, this is a, it's an array. Okay. So the type is not what is what matters. It's just a collection. Okay. Also, I can go over here and then I can say that it is again an array of how many closing brackets? Now you notice that it's this part is again an array of array. A bit complicated altogether. Let me put it in echo instead of this echo. Come on, it's a bit slow. It takes the wrong thing first, but when I type the right thing, it just it is free. What's the meaning of saying free in HTML? Is pre-formatted. I'm just telling the browser, do not format it. Whatever I'm showing as it is, you are supposed to show. And you know very well, you use this print underscore r and array. Come out. And I need a semicolon here. And if I refresh it, you're going to get it. Actual output is this. So if you notice over here, we just created an array, and the index 0, it is saying it's money and so on and so forth. And the last one, you notice over here, the fourth element, it says that it's actually an array, and the first value is 1, second value is 3, and the third value is 1 because I specified it as 2. So it's one value there.